G'day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to take a look at Red transforming second form Cell, one of the Mega Rising banner units that has come out with the brand new Legends Mega Rising banner. So I think this banner replaces the All-Star format. I'm running through the gear that I'm using right now, pretty generic gear. I'm sure there's a much better gear build for him, and I'm excited to see it in the comments. But I think this is probably your go-to standard gear if you're running him on a future-based team. You'll probably swap out the future Gohan gear for some Android 17 gear if you're looking at running him on an Android-based team. But beyond that, that's pretty much our main focal point. Now, if we take a look at his abilities, he's a pretty interesting unit. So, Hell Crush, his special move, destroys all cards and randomly draws 3 new ones. He also shortens substitution counts by 5. He will transform into Perfect Cell with his main ability, restoring his health and vanishing gauge, as well as reducing impact and slice damage, and cancelling his own attribute and abnormal conditions. His special skill destroys all of his own cards and draws 3 new ones, and for the amount of cards destroyed, he will gain health. He also gets minus 15 to own special arts move costs and restores his own ki, as well as afflicting all enemies with attribute downgrade minus 30% to health restoration. He's a future regeneration, android and powerful opponent covering unit with his Z abilities, which is pretty solid. And in terms of his passives, he has increased damage against androids in his base form, whilst also having a decent amount of damage reduction. He has minus 5 to strike and blast arts costs, and every time he enters the battlefield he restores his own health and ki. He also gets plus 50% to damage inflicted and increased arts card draw speed, as well as also affecting the substitution time accounts for Vegeta's clan enemies as well. He also has the ability to nullify enemy special action covers if he is placed in against an enemy who is below 50% health, or 50% and below, I should say. The big thing with this guy, or with Cell second form into the perfect form, is that he does get a lot better if he's facing a unit that's at 50% or below. He gains a large variety of buffs, and he, for the most part, has a pretty significant increase in his performance against them. When he's in perfect Cell, there's not too much that changes. There are some significant changes, but not necessarily on his abilities. His main ability restores his ki, doesn't heal him, but nullifies restoration of health effects and gives him a 100% vanishing gauge, which is pretty good. He then also has the same effect on the special attack, but his special skill changes slightly. Basically, actually it doesn't. The special skill stays the same. His passive, he gains damage against Saiyan enemies, and he gains more damage depending on how much time has elapsed since his transformation. He will gain health when he enters the battlefield, restores ki, and increases arts card draw speed as well. And if the enemy is below 50% health, he will again nullify their special actions, and instead of this only activating once, this will occur or reset whenever he enters switch, which is pretty decent. He also has cover change, and after the enemy's effect is over, he will restore 80% of the damage received, up to a max of 80% of his health, which is relatively decent. He will cancel attribute downgrades and abnormal conditions, and this activates 3 times. He applies the following effects to self every time an arts card is drawn while he's on the field, and that's restoration of ki, and plus 10% to damage inflicted. So he's a pretty interesting unit. I think overall he looks good. I've used him a little bit, and he can be a little bit squishy. That could be my gear build, of course. I don't have a lot of defensive equipment on him. But the big thing is you need to switch him in when the opposition is below 50% health, especially if they are blue. Switching him in when they're below 50% vastly improves how he performs as a unit, because he gains like a lot of buffs. You know, he nullifies special action covers, he nullifies unfavorable elements for the first time. So if you switch him in correctly, you can really see a good performance from him. He does do decent damage with his ultimate skill as well, And in general, his cover change is also quite useful. So I think he's good. Whether he's better than Trunks, I don't know. Being as in I don't have Trunks, but I think overall he's relatively comparable. I've played a couple Trunkses, and Trunks does seem very good. The no damage cover change is a very strong mechanism, but Cell looks like he could be a lot of fun. I mean, you're gonna see we're gonna take a massive amount of damage, and we're gonna be fine, because we'll heal that up over time, and we'll look really solid in doing so. So yeah. I mean, you can see right now we're quite low. We're at the lower 30%, and we'll heal that up over time, which is very solid. So yeah, I think overall Cell's good. Whether he's an exceptional component that you need to summon for, I don't think so. If you're someone who's trying to look at maybe possibly bringing back Red Androids, he obviously could be a good unit, because then you can have both of them running under a Zenkai boost. But it's quite difficult to run red units right now. You still have Beast Gohan just running amok in all kinds of PvP. You've got Blue Zamasu, and you've got the Android Super 7, well, sorry, not Super 17, Android 17 from the reps running around as well. So you've got quite a few solid blue options that are going to cause red units a bit of problems. That being said, I do think Cell is solid. You can see here we're utilizing his cover change. And yeah, in general, he's looking quite solid overall. I think if I had to evaluate him as a unit, based on my playing experience with him so far, I'd probably give him a 6 out of 10. He can be a little bit finicky to use. There's a couple things you really need to understand or make note of when you're using him. One of those abilities is obviously the fact that he needs to kind of be subbed in at the right time. If the enemy is low on health, he's great for finishing them off. Secondly as well, the way his heals work is quite different in his perfect form. Yeah, you do have a special skill to heal, but you don't get anything from the main ability. However, it does give you 100% vanishing gauge. Not to mention, whenever Cell draws a card, he tends to increase his damage, so you do kind of want to keep him out on the battlefield. But at the same time, you want to make sure you sub him in when the enemy is below 50% health to occur some of the bonuses. So it's a little bit of a difficult situation, balancing him around all this correct implementation. And it's not the end of the world. Listen, it's always going to be difficult to use some units, especially when there's timing and health involved. It can be very difficult. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's always quite fun to take a look at. Remember, you don't want to transform him too late, as he does gain damage dependent on how much time has actually elapsed since his transformation. So there's a lot to understand when it comes to Cell and using him correctly. And I don't think I've necessarily mastered utilizing Cell that well yet. It can also be team build, it can also be equipment as well. I think I need slightly a tankier gear to boost up his defenses. But yeah, I think overall Cell looks decent. I'm not going to say he's a game breaker, but I think in general he's a very solid option. If you're looking for a red for a future-based team or a powerful opponent's team, Cell could be that option. Whether he's distinctly better than Legends Limited, Merge Zamasu, or any unit like that, I wouldn't say so. But I would say he's definitely solid as a red, if not unspectacular. Like, I think he's, like I said, probably 6 out of 10. Good on the scale of not being too borderline broken. And I think, from that perspective, he's quite solid. You can see here, obviously, not doing the world's greatest amount of damage, but that's also okay. Does really good solid damage with the, special skill. And yeah, just general good overarching damage that he's doing right now, which is very solid. Considering he's against a red, I think it's a very solid level of performance. Again, I think, Cell's definitely usable. We are facing a teammate with a relatively decent team. Not a crack team, but a pretty good team. And I think Cell did alright. He synergizes pretty decently with the Android 17 and 18. Just the big thing is he's a strike-based unit, and lately we've been getting a lot of blast-based buffs for a lot of teams. So it's a bit difficult to kind of run him with those boosts in mind, which is why I think running him on the like Goku Black team is a bit better. Not to mention his powerful opponent buff still works here, so overall it's still a relatively solid team or foundational boosts for him to work off of. I just think he is definitely more strike based, and so you don't want to run him on a team with a bunch of ranged, basically. But yeah, that's basically it for me. Just a quick kind of cover summary because I don't know how many people are summoning on him. But yeah, just thought I'd take a look at them. That's going to be it from me. Let me know what you guys think and let me know if you build. And I'll see you next time. Bye.